Welcome to the Reimagined Energy podcast. I'm your host, Maria McGowan, and today we're joined by Lark Meadow from Aeon Blue, an innovative company with groundbreaking technology that combines seawater electrolysis with direct air capture to produce e-fuels. They have a special focus on Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, with their exciting operations they have planned. So stay with us as we learn how Aeon Blue is shaping the future of renewable energy in this province. So let's get started. Hi, welcome, Lark. Welcome to Reimagined Energy.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
It's great to have you here because I went to a presentation just this past spring where you presented about Aeon Blue, but let's fill everyone else in here. And tell me about Aeon Blue and how your technology integrates seawater electrolysis with direct air capture. And then the other question, the big question, is why Sydney, Nova Scotia? So kind of two questions snuck in there.
There are many reasons why we're in Cape Breton and specifically Sydney. One is the wind resources. So the energy in the wind, I'm not sure if you know this, Maria, but it's some of the best in the world. I'm sure you've heard that from other guests as well. So it really has to do with the way that wind moves over ice. And there's some other factors in there. I'm not a renewable energy scientist like my co-founder, but I do know that it is it's some of the best in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And others have figured this out too. So we aren't the only ones here. Number two is the ocean. So our technology is modular. So we can simply stack our technologies, goes in basically it looks like it's basically like a rectangle metal frame that can simply be stacked, and we can place it anywhere. So since we use seawater, we can build in the middle of the desert, really anywhere that there's an underground brine layer. However, the ocean is where we're the most optimized. So we plan to expand, and go as big as we can here and provide our fuels to Cape Breton and Nova Scotia. So you got the wind and you got the ocean. So those are two fantastic things. Specifically with Cape Breton, there is an incredibly supportive environment. We used to be based in the US, and we were approached by the Canadian government as they heard that we had a hydrogen and carbon capture technology. So we moved here, we became a Canadian company, and we were actually already looking at this area because of the wind in the ocean. We just didn't think that we would be here so quickly. Invest in us, so Invest Nova Scotia has been incredibly supportive, and our advisor there, Paul Richards, was pivotal for us to come here. And then there's also the Verschuren Center. Have you ever heard of the Verschuren Center?
I have. It's amazing.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, CEO Beth Mason,
Yeah.
and then there's senior scientist Roger Gumbau-Brisa. They've really provided a soft landing and a support system for our company. Cape Breton and Sydney specifically, they have an incredible industrial workforce and people who really want to work. So there's infrastructure already built, there's local stakeholder support, and there's just something different about Atlantic Canada. The people here, everyone really just wants to do something good for the environment and good for the world. They want to change things. And I really do believe in humanity in that way, that when you get together, when you get people together who want to change things, it's really amazing what you can achieve.
Yeah, I have to agree. There's a lot of positive energy here, pun intended.
It's very collaborative.
Yeah, it is. Back on to the Atlantic Canadian side, so what role does, Atlantic Canada's renewable energy potential, what does it play in your operations, and how does it influence your scaling strategy as you want to grow?
It's everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. So our feedstock is the ocean and renewable energy, and that is it.
Wow.
So renewable power build out in the province, and that includes onshore and offshore,
Hmm.
is absolutely vital for us to grow. For our first facility, we will be incorporating most likely solar and wind. So solar can play a part as well, but wind is so incredibly important. Like I said, there's a lot of energy in the wind here. So it's a perfect opportunity for not just us, for a lot of other clean fuel companies as well and carbon removal companies. So a special thing about our technology is that our reactor can operate intermittently with variable renewables. So
Hmm.
this allows us to go off grid if being on grid is not really the best option. We can do either. And because we're intermittent, we can also provide services to the grid, such as going into a stasis mode and providing energy to the grid if needed. Uh, the facility itself is fairly small. Even at a good size, a couple acres is generally how big it tends to get, and that's a fairly large facility. Uh, the space that we need has to do with the power. So, wind turbines, they need space.
Yeah.
So our scaling strategy, it's very important that the renewable energy development here, and that includes onshore and offshore, is realized. Our headquarters are in Sydney, and our plan is to scale operations with multiple facilities here in Canada, okay?
Hmm.
Particularly Cape Breton and Nova Scotia. So we'll open up our tech shop in Sydney. This is where we're going to produce our proprietary reactors. And I'll get into our CO2 impact in a bit
Hmm.
if you're interested.
Yes.
Okay, so our global goal, this has to do with the power, we're going to need, this is the big goal. This is by 2050. We're going to need about 1 terawatt of renewable power. And while we will be doing projects locally, we know that this power generation can actually be entirely realized in Canada and Atlantic Canada leading the way. So that is
Hmm.
our goal.
That's amazing. Um, Now, the facility in Cape Breton that you were just mentioning, you're projecting to produce around 3,000 tons of e-fuel annually by 2028, right? So, but there's a lot of work to be done to make that happen. So, what are the key milestones leading up to this goal?
Yeah, project developments. We have this running joke within our company. We say everything everywhere all at once. It all
Oh,
has
right.
to happen. And so when you think of a plan, it's in this linear path,
Right.
but it's rarely like that. It's usually circles and up and down, and then
Yeah.
you finally get to your goal. It's not an easy feat to realize something like this. So key milestones to get to the commercial
Hmm.
are number one, we're going to build our pilot facility in Sydney next year. So that's going to be in 2026.
Okay.
The plan is to go online in Q4 2026, testing in Q1 2027. So this will solidify offtake agreements for our products. And we also plan to do some flight tests with our aviation fuel, which is pretty exciting.
That is,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then the second milestone would be after validation for our pilot, we'll begin financing for the commercial project with our partners. Okay, so we're in 2027 now.
Right.
We do plan to go into construction in late 2027. So this is a pretty aggressive timeline.
Hmm.
Uh, Third goal or third milestone is commissioning will be for late 2028. So this is a small facility. There's 3,000 tons of fuel a year. It is not very much. So once we go online and we'll focus on so basically, once we go online, we'll focus on expansion immediately. And so, what our plan is to incrementally grow in the area. The expansions will be most likely 10x, so that's 30,000 tons of e-fuel, then 300,000, and then 3 million. And when we're talking about expansion, really, again, it's that renewable power.
Hmm. Definitely. Well, how does your technology, like how does Aeon Blue's approach, to producing these e-fuels, how does it differ from the traditional methods that we all know of? Like, what are the
Yeah.
environmental benefits of your process?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great question. So we did not invent the e-fuel process.
Mm-hmm.
Hydrogen made through water electrolysis was invented in the 1700s. E-fuels have been around since the 1920s. Saltwater electrochemistry has been around for 150 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what Doc, my co founder, did was figure out a way to make these fuels economical. Okay? So, the high cost of making these fuels has been the Achilles heel of the industry. And the main reason why you aren't seeing, these kinds of fuels maybe being blended or being provided maybe at your local gas station, or you're not powering ships coming into the Halifax harbor, is because the price of these fuels can go up to $5,300 a ton, which is really high. It's just not sustainable for buyers.
Yeah.
Even buyers in Europe who are facing mandates, and carbon taxes, $5,300 is just really, really high. And so
Mm-hmm.
what Doc did is he looked at the entire e-fuel process from upstream to downstream. Okay. And he
Right.
realized that the conversion from hydrogen and CO2 into the fuel, so we're talking downstream technology. So it takes hydrogen, it takes CO2, it goes into a machine essentially, and then fuel comes out. So this is a downstream e-fuel process. That is a very well solved TRL9. It's a well proven tech. And there are some really amazing companies and people out there right now who have
Mm-hmm.
dedicated their lives to getting as much efficiency as possible out of essentially this machine. Okay. So what had not been solved is the upstream. And the upstream process, which is the hydrogen, and you get the carbon, so you're doing some sort of carbon capture process. This actually carries 80% of the cost of e-fuels. So the question is, how do we get the hydrogen and the CO2 in a cost effective manner? Right? So, how do
Mm-hmm.
we leverage a platform to produce more than just one product at the same time and get as much value as possible from the same energy? Right? So, it's just more efficient. So, that is essentially what differentiates us from other e-fuel companies and even carbon removal companies, that we don't just do one thing.
Hmm.
We combine and get more value out of every single atom. And because we focus on the amount of value that we can get from our platform, this does a few things that it's very different from the market. So, number one is it enables us to drop the price of our fuels to cost parity with fossil. We don't need a green premium baked into our fuels because the other products serve as our green premium. And a third party report just came out from Los Alamos National Laboratory stating that Aeon Blue can make e-fuels at the same price as producing natural gas at the wellhead. So it's very, very, very cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Our facility is a no waste facility. We recycle and upcycle all our salts, and so because we're pulling salt from the ocean, and that's really what drives our process. And for delivering our products locally, we plan to use natural gas trucks using our own natural gas. So it's just completely circular. Because we make several products, and this really starts to get into the carbon impact. Because we make several products, and what we're doing is we are removing legacy emissions from the atmosphere, but then we're also preventing CO2 from ever entering the atmosphere in the first place,
Hmm.
because
Right.
we are displacing products in the market with products made through a carbon negative process. So, rule of thumb is 1 ton of our fuel equals about 3 tons CO2 removed, plus 7 tons CO2 prevented from entering the atmosphere. So that's about 10 tons of carbon impacted per 1 ton of e-fuel we make. And so when you get into the higher numbers of, of production, that really starts to become significant in how much CO2 that we're impacting.
Hmm.
So, you really want to think about it with these fuels as, when you go to step onto a plane that is going to take off, or, you're stepping onto a ferry to Newfoundland, or pushing a button at the gas pump and filling up your car. So as you're doing these things, you are actually saving the planet for someone completely on the other side of the world. You're saving it for your friends, you're saving it for your family, and it's because we impact that significant amount of CO2 during our process. Maria, these fuels are the future. So especially for hard to decarbonize industries, heavy transport, such as aviation, or maritime and rail. I'm particularly excited about getting gasoline into cars and having just helping people have that choice of, hey, do I want to put carbon negative fuel into my gas tank today? It's pretty exciting.
It is pretty exciting. I have to agree. I'm sure you've done your homework on this, about the economic advantages. So, what are they behind this technology? I'm sure
Sure.
you've done the homework here.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I can give you a brief summary. So,
Yeah.
okay, sounds good. Economic advantages for our buyers is that fuel price.
Okay.
So, because we don't need the green premium, so we're looking at cost parity with fossil. The prices of our other products will be at market cost because we have a whole entire platform. We designed the technology to stand on its own, regardless of what political party is in power. So our co-products are vital in the beginning. We are a startup, so we are in a vulnerable phase as we grow. And so a lot of hard tech companies don't make it. There really is a valley of death in the beginning of stages. That's actually a term. It's called the valley of death for a lot of hard tech companies. So you really need to have all the resources you can access in the beginning. This includes, of course, government and local support, things like that. But if you can sell more than one product, you're going to just be more financially strong to be able to get to scale. At full scale, our co-products won't matter as much for our economics. And this is a platform technology. So what I mean by that is we can do other things with it. We'll always remove carbon, capture carbon, make fuels. That's why we show up. That's why we're doing this. There's other things we can make too, though. We can also make green metals, and we can store the CO2 in a variety of ways. There's a lot of potential with this.
That's awesome. You say you're building at scale, which is a really smart move, for any type of startup. And, what does the future of renewable energy in Nova Scotia look like as you scale up Aeon Blue? For example, recently, our Premier Houston, made a big announcement this week about offshore wind projects. So there's a lot of really nice things that are happening. So what does the future of, look like, as you scale and grow?
Great question. Great
Yeah.
question. More wind. More winds. So solar, and it's onshore and offshore. They're both important. Solar will play a part as well. But as I said,
Yes.
Nova Scotia has, some of the best wind in the world. Our 2050 goal is to produce about 1.4 million tons of e-fuel a day. Okay, so this is our big goal. So this would impact about 5 billion tons of carbon. And Nova Scotia, particularly Cape Breton, is pivotal to launching this initiative. And the country of Canada could support that number. And with the fantastic news that came out just in the past week this it's extremely promising because our our success here and our growth here is really tied to the renewable energy build out. So it's very, very exciting. We'll have to see how we can get to scale here, what that will look like, and given the right support, from the public and government, we believe that we could make Nova Scotia carbon negative. So along with the wind, so all of those things combined, it creates a really fantastic opportunity for the province to be carbon negative and to lead that way, to lead this, basically this incredible transition that's happening in Canada, and basically be the leader of that. And you're already seeing that, so so much of it. And I think your podcast is absolutely tied to showing that.
Looking ahead, what are the next steps, for Aeon Blue in terms of your technology development and also your market expansion? What does the future look like? Near future look like?
Sure. Yeah. So aside from our pilot facility and developing our first commercial site, we are putting together a plan with local stakeholders on, what is the full potential for our company here, and how much can we grow? How much can we play a part in the renewable power expansion? And the question is really for us is how can we serve the community by keeping these fuels and the products in the province? We're speaking to the market here, and if any of your listeners are interested in any of our products, we'd love to hear from you. For those of you who want to get involved, we would love to hear from you. There is definitely no project that has ever just been built by one person. It truly takes a village, whether that's, direct or indirect supply chain, all of it. So we believe it's really going to take an entire province to support an initiative like this. And our intention here is for the community to call it their own, because it is. And Aeon Blue is here to stay. And we're a Cape Breton company. So we will be doing tours of our pilot facility, and we'll keep our LinkedIn page updated with every step we take.
Oh, that's
so
excellent.
It would be really cool, to do some tours if anybody's interested in coming and taking a look there.
Definitely keep us posted. Well, thank you so much, Lark, for joining me today. It was wonderful to track you down and chat with you, and wishing you all the best. You'll have to come back on, in the coming months or couple of years, just to give an update on how things have progressed. And I'm curious to know. All right. Thank you. Thanks again. From seawater electrolysis to scaling up production in Cape Breton, it's clear that innovative solutions like these are crucial for our renewable energy future. Thank you, Lark Meadow from Aeon Blue, and thank you for tuning in to the Reimagined Energy podcast. We'll be back next week with more insights into the world of clean energy. Until then, stay inspired and keep pushing for change.